And just a few housekeeping things. The session is being recorded and it will be available on the LIANZA YouTube channel shortly. Okay, because it's the AGM, could I get you to put your name and your institution into the chat so we've got a record of who has attended? That would be great. Okay, so I'll start off with Karakia. Tutawa mai I runa, tutawa mai I rao, tutawa mai I roto, tutawa mai I wahu, kia tu ai te mari tu, te mari ora, ki te katoa, homie, huie, taie. Okay, so the AGM is probably going to be fairly short. Hopefully we can get up to 5 minutes, and then I'll pass over to Anoushka and Bridget to cover the ORDAC part of the update. So for the 2022-2023 year, we've had a stable committee of Tamsin, Anoushka, Sue, Rebecca, and Bridget. Bridget and Anoushka are the SIG representatives on the ORDAC committee. Unfortunately, we've had several people decide to step down from the committee after a number of years of service. So Sue, Tamsin, and Rebecca will be leaving the committee at the end of the AGM. So that means SIG is now going to be looking for some more committee members. We've got one general member, which is me, and unfortunately we can't run anything with just one member. It would be great if we can get a couple more people. One person would be enough, so we could continue to offer things like the SIG professional development talks, so at least we can share information and things like that, as well as some of the other bits and pieces that the committee needs to look after. So the membership of LIANZA SIG was slightly less this year than it was last year. So we had 148 members. Last year we had 151. So it's not too bad, fairly similar numbers. The main activities we did last year was in October, we ran another SIG talks. We had 206 people attend. Across all the Zoom sessions, so it was well received with about 50 people attending most sessions, so that was good. The other thing we did was put together the Catapult newsletter. So Sarah from the University of Auckland compiled all the 2022 issues, and then the 2023 issues were compiled by the National Library of New Zealand. We'd like to thank everyone for their contributions to keeping this newsletter going, and we welcome any more contributions to the newsletter to help make it a success. So this financial year, SIG is again operated as an unbudgeted SIG. We'll be probably doing this again next year. The main activity we offered was the SIG talks via Zoom, so there was no financial outlay by members. Okay. So activities such as organising training and producing Catapult take a great deal of time and effort, and we would not be able to continue these without the hard work of all the committee and the support of the SIG membership. So we would really appreciate you continuing to put together any articles, any bits, pieces of information you think other members would be interested, and we'd really like to receive that. You can send anything to the SIG Gmail account, and we'll put it into the newsletter. Or if you want to share something, remember we have got a new cataloguing community on the LIANZA website. Currently, there's only 20 members, so it would be good to get a few more members there, because it's a good place to offer discussion, share documents, things like that. It's not a it will eventually be a replacement for the SIG email address, but currently we're running both of them concurrently, so it'd be great for you to contribute there and join and see what the other people have got to say and other questions I've got to ask. So the last thing I want to say is to thank the existing members of the committee for all their time and effort they've put into helping make the committee a success and running these events. So we would really like to get some new membership. So if anyone's interested in joining, we would welcome you. You don't need to speak up now. You can send me an email later. So it's a great professional development opportunity, and it gives you an opportunity to support other cataloguers and give back to LIANZA. So usually we meet via Zoom 2 or 3 times a year, with the rest of the committee business carried out by email. The main activity we are doing currently is organising the professional development opportunities. So that's pretty much all I've got to say. So I'll hand over to Anoushka and Bridget. So I'll stop sharing so they can share.
Okay, so just a quick check, you can see the slides. Awesome. Great, thank you, Joanne. Hello, everyone, again. So I'm Anoushka. I'm one of the cataloguing team leaders at the National Library of New Zealand, and I've been on the CATSIG committee for a number of years now. As Joanne said, I'm currently one of the two one of the two CATSIG representatives on ORDAC, along with Bridget Jennings. And together, Bridget and I are going to update you on CATSIG's contribution to the development of RDA via ORDAC this year. So we're going to tag team the presentation, so you'll be able to hear from me and Bridget. We're going to give you a brief background on the RSC, ORDAC, and how CATSIG fits in. We're going to talk about what we did this year and then what's coming up. Sorry. Right, so as a quick reminder, what is the RSC? The RSC is the RDA Steering Committee, and this is the group responsible for maintaining and developing RDA, which we're all familiar with. It's our core descriptive standard. The RSC is organised into 6 regions: Europe, Africa, Asia, North America, Latin America and the Caribbean, and us in Oceania. So of these regions, the regions are intended to represent or provide a representative to the RSC. But at the moment, only 3 regions have formally convened groups and provided representatives. And those 3 regions are Europe, who have EURIG, which is the European RDA Interest Group, North America, which provides a representative from NARDAC, the North American RDA Committee, and us, ORDAC, the Oceania RDA Committee. So we're responsible for Oceania, which includes Australia and New Zealand, of course, but also Micronesia, Polynesia, and Melanesia. We currently still only have members from Australia and New Zealand, which isn't obviously the whole of the Oceania region. So as I pleaded last year, if anybody knows of anybody in the Pacific who we should be talking to in order to get them involved in ORDAC, please do let us know or arrange, because we would really appreciate an introduction. So what does ORDAC do? These are our key, the key things that we do, or we are organised to do. And to do these things, first, we select the Oceania representative to the RSC and ensure that they're fully supported and prepared to present the viewpoint of Oceania at those meetings. The second thing we do is we ensure that news from the RSC and other useful information and announcements are posted to the Oceania RDA email list and also distributed by channels such as Catapult and other Australian and New Zealand cataloguing email lists. And the third thing we've been doing is we give presentations that promote RDA. So you may have seen members from ORDAC have given presentations on application profiles. And recently, Charlotte Christensen gave presentations introducing the RDA toolkit's guidance chapters, but I'll come back to them shortly. So how does CATSIG fit in? Well, the New Zealand cataloguing community has been contributing to the development of RDA via our 2 CATSIG representatives. After last year's AGM, Bridget put her hand up and joined me. So we have 2 representatives, and I'm really pleased because Bridget's brought a welcome public library perspective to our discussions, as well as her excellent organisational skills to the role of ORDAC Secretary. So my term on ORDAC is actually coming to an end at the beginning of next year, and I've been on the committee since 2016, and I think it's time that I gave space for other voices. So this could be you joining Bridget as the second CATSIG representative. So I'd like people to start thinking about it now. If you use RDA in your library and you're curious and willing to engage more deeply with the standard, now this is an excellent professional development opportunity because you'll gain experience of serving on an international committee, as well as getting the opportunity to dive deep into the nitty-gritty of RDA. So if you've been thinking too, how is the new RDA going to work in practice? And how are we going to learn all of this? This is also a fantastic opportunity to join in organising webinars and presentations and other training materials. So if you'd like to know more about what's involved, there is some information on our website, which I'll share with you at the end, but also please get in touch with Bridget and I, and either of us, we're happy to talk about what's involved and how things work. And keep an eye out for a call in the new year. Probably, well, it will be through the CATSIG email list and probably in the December issue of Catapult. So now I'm going to hand over to Bridget, who's going to talk a little bit more about who else is on ORDAC.
Kia ora koutou, and just like to tautoko what Anoushka just said, and yeah, welcome everybody to, yes, please do think about joining us on ORDAC. So yeah, who else is on ORDAC? Well, we're actually quite a large group at the moment with quite a good wide representation from different types of organisations. So apart from us 2, there are 2 ACORD representatives, that is the Australian counterpart of CATSIG. So that's Melissa Parent at the State Library of Victoria and Renata Behrens from SCIS. The National Library representatives are Charlotte Christensen from New Zealand, and Michaela Goodwin is the Australian rep. And Julia Hickey is the RDA board representative. And in addition, we have 2 co-opted members in Australia, is Jack Ennis-Butler from the National Gallery of Australia. And then we have Ed Curtis, who's been on ORDAC for a really long time. Like Anoushka and Grant. And so since joining the National Library of New Zealand, it's just been staying on until the end of the year for just to keep the continuity going. So how do we work? How do we do the work? We usually meet online about once a month to discuss papers and proposals that have been submitted. And then in between meetings, we communicate via email and on our wiki space, which is illustrated there, which is hosted by the National Library of Australia.
So I'm going to talk about what have we done this year. As Bridget mentioned, we discuss proposals, and this year we've focused our effort in 2 main areas. The first is that we've continued to support the Oceania representative, that's Charlotte Christensen, at the RSC meetings. So the RSC meetings, there have been asynchronous online meetings in January and July, and then there was a face-to-face meeting in May in Chicago, and then there's an upcoming meeting in Vienna that's going to be a face-to-face one too. So support, it really means that we read all the papers that are should be discussed at an RSC meeting. We read the other regions' responses to those papers, and then we contribute to a formal response from our region. And if you have a look on the RSC site, you can see all of the proposals and responses that the regions provide. So we also discuss the issues in our regular meetings, so that when Charlotte goes to the meetings, she is fully prepared to present the viewpoint of our region, which, you know, we do have a different point of view about some things in RDA it's quite different to how the North Americans see things. So we do work to make sure that, you know, how we feel about things is, Charlotte can get in there and really explain why we think the way we do. The second thing that we've done this year is, I mentioned briefly before, that we've contributed webinars. I say we, but really Charlotte has done the heavy lifting on these. ORDAC presented a series of 3 webinars in June of this year, exploring concepts from the official RDA toolkit's guidance chapters. Now, the guidance chapters are key to understanding how official RDA, or you might be thinking the new RDA, works. And these sessions provide a true introduction to RDA, explain core concepts and how to interact with the standard. Now, if you haven't seen these, I highly recommend that you go and watch them, maybe right after this session, as they are really, really good. And if you're coming to the session in 2 weeks' time, where Charlotte will be taking us through a deep dive into a single element in the new RDA toolkit, these webinars will provide a good baseline background. So if you haven't seen them, go watch them. They're on the RDA Toolkit YouTube channel, and they are completely free. And while I'm here, I'll plug the RDA Toolkit YouTube channel as a whole, because there's heaps of other stuff in there that is also free. Right, so what's coming up? I'm going to hand back to Bridget to talk about what's coming up, because Bridget's like the future. Now I'm at the past, so Bridget can talk about the future.
Thank you. Yeah, so what is coming up? So first off, the next RSC meetings, there is an in-person meeting in Vienna in October, and then an online asynchronous meeting in January. And for these meetings, we welcome your comments and feedback on any of the public agenda items for the RSC meetings. So if you do have comments or feedback, please send them to us to incorporate into our regional response. And you can either send them to the email address for the ORDAC secretary, which is on the RSC website, or send them directly to us. And by doing this, we're able to contribute, as Anoushka has suggested, to making the tool we use better and better for our region as well. We've also got some big pieces of work that have cropped up through the work that the RSC has been doing this year that have a lot of relevance to our region. And this is basically arisen from a focus on internationalisation. So I will come back to that just shortly. In the next slide. But first, so coming up, implementation and training. So implementation will be different depending on the needs of your institution, and it won't likely happen until sometime next year, probably the second half of next year, I suspect. So in the meantime, for the rest of this year and next year, we've got lots of opportunities for CATSIG to contribute to training and learning. And hopefully you will all be tuning in for the last 2 webinars of this year's series, which are both on a deep dive into using the official RDA toolkit, which will be really great. In addition to that, ORDAC is planning on creating a space in the cataloguer community on LIANZA Connect, which Joanne referred to earlier, with lists of resources to help with the training. So again, don't forget to join the cataloguing community on LIANZA Connect. And then just briefly diving into one of these pieces of work that we're beginning to explore and put together. So we're doing a project on places and names, and we'll be looking at things like broader concepts of place and ownership. So asking questions like, do the concepts of place, ownership and name represented in the toolkit fit the understanding of Indigenous communities? What relationships are missing in the toolkit, for example, between agents and place, and between place and place? Does the toolkit describe the concept of place adequately? Does the toolkit describe connections between people, groups, and places adequately? In short, are the right tools in the toolkit? For example, I've got two illustrations on the screen here. You may have come across some publishers recognising more than one place. So on the left-hand side, we've got an example of Australian publishers increasingly embracing this idea of recording in Indigenous. So we've got the Camaragal country, as well as Crow's Nest, New South Wales, Australia. But then also on the right, I found this example from a publisher in the United States. So it is a universal, it's a universal exploration in that sense. So what the publishers are representing are two distinct place concepts, each with their own name, as opposed to one place concept or place entity, which has two names, which is quite interesting. So we'll be thinking about these types of scenario and how can the toolkit be flexible to accommodate an institution choosing a description of place and its connections that suits its community's needs. So yeah, if you have a personal or professional interest in this area and you'd like to be involved, we would love to hear from you.
Okay, thanks, Bridget. So if you'd like to find out more about ORDAC, we do have space on the RSC website, the RDA Steering Committee website. And on this page, you'll find our terms of reference, our membership, information on joining the RDA Oceania email list, as well as a contact email for the secretary, who is currently Bridget. And I just want to plug again the RDA Oceania email list, because this is our main tool for directly updating the region about upcoming proposals that you may want to comment on, and you know, our projects such as the one that Bridget's just mentioned. Okay, so then finally, if you've got any questions, we can take some questions now, or feel free to email either Bridget or I later.
Okay, unless anyone's got any questions, either for Bridget or Anoushka, or generally for the committee, we'll bring this session to a close. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. And next week we have got 3 interesting sessions from different people on how they use Marketer. So that sounds like it'd be very interesting, and we'll have a few questions, I'm sure, from that. So I'll just close the session with a karakia. Ka whakakari aki te tapu ki runa, kia wātia ai, te ara, kia turiki whakataha ai, kia turiki whakataha ai, homi e, hui e, taiti e. Well, thank you everyone very much for coming, and I hope you found the session informative. And if you'd like to join the committee or don't want to take part in ORDAC, please think about it and contact us. Great. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.